Hi everybody! We are going to present the Chapter 7 Working with the Virtual Student. Okay, let's begin. There are some specific characteristics that define successful learners. For example, they are active, creative, and engaged in the learning process. Those kind of students are defined as noisy students. Nevertheless, it is known for us, the teachers, that not all the students are noisy students. But why? Well, let's see. A research made by Ray Crozier for Cardiff University in 2003 reveals that the lack of participation in students lies in a single word: shyness. But recently, there has been like a change in the game with a recent implementation of lots of online teaching environments because of the worldwide situation. Teachers have noticed that students tend to change their usual posture in participation and contribution to the learning process. This change lies on the use of technology for learning because young students are very used to these devices and softwares. As we consider the collaborative learning process that occurs online, some questions may emerge. What are the characteristics of the successful learner in the online environment? What is the role of the learner? How do structures facilitate online courses in order to maximize the potential of the learner? And finally, how can the instructors teach their students to use the online environment effectively for learning? Well, there will be understood that teachers have to manage the knowledge for teaching online and that students will know instinctively how to manage the learning process. Research made in the United States shows that the opposite occurs. This is why students in online situations need to come to an awareness that learning through the use of technology significantly affects the learning process itself. Furthermore, they need to realize that the online learning process occurs for the most part through the formation of a learning community and is reflective in nature. Students may enter in an online course expecting to be educated by a content expert. This will be just in like a traditional classroom. The online classroom can provide an alternative that may be quite useful for some students, those who tend to be shy and who would like to have more space to think in the real classroom in order to bring better answers to their teachers. However, all the students must not be forced in an online classroom because it is not effective for all. Understanding different learning styles can help illustrate why that is the case. So, let's see them.
Hello, I hope you're doing well today. Before I start, I want to ask you a question whose answer will be given in the following information. The question is, should we expect all students to succeed in the virtual environment? You can give your opinion and later we will provide information that will help you to grasp the answer. Well, I am going to talk about addressing different learning styles. Litzinger and Opsev define learning styles as the ways in which children and adults think and learn. It's essential to say that they break down thinking and learning processes into cognition. Also, it is very important to say that a number of authors have attempted to categorize the learning styles that people possess based on their basic processes. Something that caught my attention is that the best known is Cole, who determined that there are 4 predominant learning styles. For example, the first one is convergence. It's one that is about finding concrete solutions to problems and making decisions. Also, we have divergence, which is about having awareness of meaning and enjoying brainstorming. Besides that, we have assimilators, which take a lot of information and build theoretical models based on that information. And last but not least, we have accommodators that are about learning through trial and error. Everyone develops a learning style, but this is a point where we can find good things and bad things. For example, a person can learn quickly just because his or her experience are a big help in the learning process. But other people might have problems when learning since he or she cannot relate to the new learning environment. Recognizing and working with those who do not succeed. It is relevant to say that a student who cannot be successful in the face-to-face classroom may do well online. It is unrealistic to expect that all the students will do well in this environment just because they are not able to adapt according to their teaching levels. But I have another question that says, how does an instructor determine when a student is not doing well in the online classroom? Well, this is a complicated question. Nevertheless, we have some options to determine this. For example, changes in the level of participation of a student who has been participating well, but suddenly this student disappears from the online discussion for a week or maybe more than a week. This could be a problem, so the teacher needs to get in contact to that student. We also can face difficulty getting started, and this is regarding to problems that can happen due to connection, right? For example, the instructor may get an email or phone calls from the student about technical problems, and these problems usually happen every day, but students and teachers must know how to deal with this. Besides that, we have flaming, and this is about frustration or confusion. Sometimes the students misbehave and express these emotions by leaving the class of the course. The instructor needs to respond quickly in the same way as they would do in the face-to-face classroom. And the last, we have dominating the discussion. In appropriate ways, some students will attempt to dominate the discussion, and they will try to make the discussion personal with other concerns that have little to do with the course materials or with the classes, and that would be a problem. So again, as in face-to-face classes, the instructor should attempt to work with the student on an individual basis that could mend his or her behavior.
Hi, well, my presentation will be focused on the role of the learners in the online learning process. Successful online learning requires a reconstruction of the roles, responsibilities, and practices not only of the educators but also of the students. Talking about the online learning process of students, there are three important roles that are very related to each other. So they are knowledge generation, collaboration, and process management. Talking about the first one, knowledge generation, a pedagogue, Wittrock, said that the teaching is not just filling in the gaps of what the students don't know, because teaching becomes a generative learning process. Learners can self-generate inferences and then map these inferences to their existing mental models, and that will help students that their understanding knowledge can be generated meaningfully. What is important to students learning is how students make sense of learning material and new information. In order that online students get generative knowledge, the pedagogues Fiorella and May propose 8 important strategies to promote generative learning: mapping, drawing, imagining, summarizing, self-explaining, self-testing, and acting. The first 3 strategies foster students to integrate their previous knowledge into textual or pictorial representations. The last 5 strategies involve social interaction. Students are required to interact with each other and with discussing and explaining to other learners, defending their claims and evidence, and so forth. When it comes to collaboration during the online learning of students, one of the advantages of online classes is that groups of students working together in a class don't need to be isolated. It is necessary that the teacher finds strategies to avoid that the students feel alone. So students should be expected to work together to generate deeper understandings and critical evaluation of the material under study. In that way, the students are going to be able to express what they have investigated to the teachers and to the other students. Sometimes the students don't grasp the main point of the topic, but through the explanation of other students, they understand better. So finally, providing assignments that encourage students to seek out additional resources is a good way to increase their research ability and knowledge of how to use the internet for having good outcomes. There is a great advantage that students have when it comes to the online learning process because through the internet, students can look for more information about a specific topic, and then if they have a group assignment, they can create a meeting, for example in Google Meet, and they can discuss what they have understood, and that is going to be very beneficial for every member of the class, even for the teacher. So that's all for me. Thank you so much.
Hello everyone, I will continue talking about the roles that the students may take in the virtual classroom. Let's first remember that in general, students in the virtual classroom are supposed to have a more active role. They are supposed to take more responsibility on their own learning as well as to be self-driven. But this responsibility and this independency that they are supposed to have also affect the interactions that take place in the virtual classroom. In a face-to-face classroom, it is more common to have interactions between a student and teacher, but in the online environment, the most common interactions will be between a student and a student. With all of these conditions and in this situation is that the role of the process management emerges. A student with this role is basically a student who temporarily takes the role of the teacher by answering the questions that in another situation would be directed to the teacher. These questions may be related to directions to carry out an activity, but they may also be related to the topics that are being developed in the course. And this should not be seen as something necessarily bad, because this could help the teacher to not have many questions from the students and to not have many doubts, because some of these doubts could be solved by classmates. Now let's talk about how to maximize the potential of the virtual students. These are some pieces of advice to motivate the students in the virtual environment. First, you can use the best practices from the face-to-face classroom to promote participation in the online environment. You may use visual aids like online boards as well as PowerPoint presentation, but you can also use little simple things like post-its. You may write a keyword in a post-it and show it to the students in the video conference. Also, another thing that you have to pay attention to is engagement. During a video conference, you may have three kinds of students: the ones who are critics, that are only questioning what is happening in the class but not participating; the ones who are consumers, that may just be watching the class but they are quiet and silent; and you may have also contributors, the ones that are eager to participate. So how to have more contributors in your class? You first have to ask as a teacher, am I allowing spaces to contribute in my class? Am I taking into account the contributions of my students in the learning process? By asking this kind of questions, you may direct yourself to change the activities and to focus more on the participation of the students and to make them more engaged into their own learning. Also, if students are having technical issues, you can offer them support or connect them with that tech support. You can also send them some tutorials on how to use the platforms or the technological tools that you are using. But more than just doing that, you should take into account that if a student does not understand how to post a comment in a specific platform for a forum, they will not likely participate in this forum, and that's exactly what you don't want to happen. So basically, more than using many tools and many online platforms and tools, you should stick to the ones that the students know how to use and use them in different ways so that students are still engaged but they feel comfortable enough to participate by using these tools.
Hello again. Let's continue with how to maximize the potential of the virtual student. Well, sometimes conflicts hurt participation, so it is better for the teacher to intercede with the students involved. As in the face-to-face classroom, conflicts of differences in opinions happen, and in the virtual classroom, it is something common. Students can have different opinions about a certain topic, which causes a struggle among them. This situation should be solved by interfering with them and asking maybe for help to the institution if needed, right? But if all those efforts we have done don't work, it is better to talk with the students and to tell them to withdraw. Why? Because in this way the learning process can continue with the rest of the group and they can feel free to participate. Another thing that can cause non-participation is security breaches. How? Well, in the virtual classroom, it is common not to feel secure because it is in the web, right? In the internet. And it is very insecure, so sometimes in the meetings the links can be shared by everyone, and this can cause that an external person enters to that meeting, and if a student, let's say of our group, notice about this, that student or the whole group can feel insecure if we don't notify them that another person will be there. And if a person that we don't know is there, it is also recommendable to talk with the institution, right? So it can cause struggles if we don't do something quickly. A recommendation also is to log on the online classroom at least 3 or more times a week, because the students feel comfortable and feel secure that the teacher is there paying attention to what they are doing or what they are discussing. So if we are active, our students will be active as well. Another tip is to learn how to ask broad questions. Well, broad questions are like the key for a discussion. They are like our tool, the teacher's tool, because you ask something, then you ask why that students think or have that opinion. So it is very recommendable to learn how to ask that broad questions, because it boosts students' participation. And in those broad questions in the online classroom, you can also include humor in your post to help students feel welcome and safe. This tip is for making them feel comfortable to answer, to post, to give their opinions, right? Because they feel as if you, the teacher, are a friend of them, right? And the last one is to post a welcoming response in the introduction. Sometimes at the beginning of the year, students don't know each other in the virtual classroom. It is very difficult because in the face-to-face classroom, it is so common. But it is recommendable that the teacher post a response, a welcoming response to the student, saying the trace, the name, giving information about him or her, and this will boost the students' participation as well. Well, these were the tips to maximize the students' participation, the virtual students' participation.
Hello guys, I will continue with the topic and I will talk about teaching students how to learn in the online environment. And this is a very important step because if we do not do this, no matter how much effort we put in our classes, they are not going to be as effective as we want them to be. The students need to be educated on the different way they are going to be learning, which is in this case online learning. So let's go ahead and start this beautiful topic. One of the most important things that we have to take into account is that most students do not really know the difference between face-to-face classes and online learning. So instead of seeing this as a problem, we can see it as an opportunity for us to be able to teach them how to do this properly. So students do not know the difference between these two types of teaching or learning, online and face-to-face. But what can we teachers do about it? Shall we go and start our classes online and all the material that we are going to prepare and start everything as we would normally do in face-to-face classes? Definitely not. What we have to do is to educate the students. And how are we going to do it? Some universities are doing it's a really great thing, which is teaching a pre-course. Before students take the actual online course, they are required to take a course on what online learning is. And this, of course, maximizes their learning experience. Most of the time, these courses provide a basic login onto the internet and doing research techniques so that the students know how to use the internet and also they know how to do some research on that. We can never assume that because we are in a digital era, the students are going to automatically know how to do this. So what we have to do is to try to work successfully with virtual students. And how are we going to achieve this? First of all, we cannot run before walking. We can never start something assuming that the students automatically know it. Even though this is true in some cases, students automatically know many things, this is not applicable for all students. So we always have to be careful about it, and we have to welcome this new experience for students. We're not going to make them feel afraid of it. Instead, we're going to sell the benefits of it. Something else that we can do in order to create courses that are accurate for all type of students is to include different learning styles. For example, we might have students who love reading and they are going to learn in this way. We also may have students who like to learn by classifying things. They have this natural, this intelligence, or students who are visual learners and like to see more colors and drawings. And we can provide the same information in different varieties so that different kind of students can choose which is the one that is most suitable for them. Explore, research, and work collaboratively are keywords in online learning. In comparison or in contrast to face-to-face classes, online learning focuses a lot on the student, and the student has to do a lot of research and a lot of collaborative work because not all the information is going to be provided to him. There is a crucial role on the student here, and we have to clarify that so that the students set clear expectations. As a conclusion, we can say that there are four predominant learning styles: convergers, divergers, assimilators, and accommodators. Everyone develops a learning style that has a strong and weak points. A student who might not be successful in face-to-face classroom may do well online. An instructor may determine when a student is not doing well in the online classroom through changes in the level of participation, difficulty getting started, flaming, dominating the discussion, and so on. We also have to remember that working with the virtual learning is an experience full of challenges, new discoveries, and joy. With time, we learn that as in the face-to-face classroom, not all the students will shine in this modality. However, this new way of learning gives opportunities to introvert students to spread their wings. Though the online learning environment may have disadvantages, we learn that the different learning styles of a student is not one of them, as the different learning styles can be addressed. Rather, as teachers, we have to identify those students who struggle with this new system. Also, we have to be conscious of the different roles a student play in this modality, being these roles more active as knowledge generation and process management. Though the role of the teacher in the e-learning is more of a facilitator providing guidance, the teacher can still motivate the students to do better by paying attention to the different situations that can happen, like student participation and engagement. And let's also not forget that we have to teach students how to learn in the online environment in order to help them set correct expectations and maximize their learning. Thank you very much for watching our class.